Hey everyone! Welcome to the XRP market analysis for the 22nd of April 2026. Let's see what's been happening today, shall we? Oh, before we start, this video is based on an AI-generated report, so please use it as reference only. And remember, investing is always your own responsibility. Alright, let's jump into today's market summary. XRP is sitting pretty at $1.4329 right now, up a modest 0.47% in the last 24 hours. You know what I've noticed? The price is actually trading above that Bollinger Band middle line at $1.3669, which is, well, it's not terrible. But here's where it gets interesting. The AI is giving us some mixed signals today. Short term, it's looking a bit bearish with a target of $1.2438. That's about a 13.2% drop. But don't worry too much, because medium to long-term projections are actually bullish. So we might see a little correction before things get better. Now let's talk technical indicators, because this is where things get really interesting. The RSI is sitting at 57.21, which means we're in that sweet neutral zone with room to move up. The MACD is showing 0.0148 above the signal line at 0.0031, and the histogram is positive at 0.0117. That's actually giving us some short-term bullish momentum signals. Here's the thing though. We've got a golden cross happening between the 5-day moving average at $1.4373 and the 20-day at $1.3669. But we're still about 23.48% below that 200-day moving average at $1.8696. That tells us we're still recovering from a longer downtrend, but the trend is definitely improving. So what's happening in the bigger picture globally? Well, ECB President Lagarde is signaling monetary policy stability for 2025, which could be good for risk assets like XRP. Here's something I found fascinating. XRP has a negative correlation with the dollar index at minus 0.1644. The dollar is at $98.15 right now, so if it weakens, that could actually help XRP. Plus, there's a positive 0.3129 correlation with the Nasdaq at $24,519, which means if tech stocks do well, XRP might follow along. And the VIX correlation is negative at minus 0.1338. So when markets are calm, XRP tends to benefit. Now this is interesting on the regulatory front. Ripple's CEO is actually praising the SEC's new direction as US crypto markets prepare for what they're calling a regulatory reset. That sounds promising. But we're also seeing some mixed signals elsewhere. The New York Attorney General sued Coinbase and Gemini over prediction markets, and the Philippine SEC issued some investor alerts. Wait, there's also news that Russia's parliament adopted a digital currency bill. You know what this tells me? Regulatory clarity is slowly coming, and that's generally good for institutional adoption of XRP. Let's check the mood in the room, shall we? The Fear and Greed Index is sitting at 33. That's in fear territory, folks. This suggests there's still a lot of selling pressure out there. XRP search trends are at 24, which is, well, relatively low interest right now. The FOMO spread is only 2.0, so there's not much buying enthusiasm yet. But here's something positive. The XRP to Bitcoin interest ratio is at 0.9107, meaning XRP is maintaining about 90% of Bitcoin's attention level. That's actually pretty healthy. The low participation could mean rapid moves up when sentiment shifts. Huh? These whale numbers are wild. We've got 598 whale transactions involving 1.823 trillion XRP. That's some serious institutional activity right there. Regular transactions are at 14,695, showing the network is being used steadily. But get this, whale volume represents 99.99% of total volume. That's pretty intense. This means big players are actively positioning themselves, which increases volatility, but also signals continued institutional interest. That's actually bullish for the longer term. Time for some pattern analysis. The Elliott wave folks are saying XRP is in wave C, which is the corrective phase. This is actually the final stage of that ABC correction pattern, so we might see a new impulse wave starting once this correction wraps up. The Wyckoff analysis is showing we're in the accumulation phase, stage A, with about 33% confidence. This is where smart money typically collects positions at lower prices before the markup phase begins. So we might be setting up for a breakout after this current consolidation. Okay, here's what the AI is telling us, and it's pretty specific. Short term, we're looking at $1.2438. That's a 13.2% decline with 82.6% probability. That's a pretty strong signal for a correction. But then, medium term in 7 days, it's targeting $1.5981, which is an 11.5% gain with 54.8% probability. And long term at 30 days, $1.5668 for a 9.3% gain, though the probability drops to 50.5%. So the pattern here is short correction, then gradual recovery. No V-shaped rebounds, just steady climbing back up. Now let's be realistic about the risks, because there are definitely some things to watch out for. First, that 82.6% probability of dropping to $1.24 levels is, well, it's concerning. We've also got macroeconomic uncertainty, with central bank policies changing. And regulatory volatility is still a thing. That whale concentration at 99.99% creates volatility risks. And with a fear and greed index at 33, we could see more selling pressure. Plus, if Bitcoin has problems, it usually affects the whole crypto market. And those low search trends at 24 mean liquidity could be thin. All right. Here's my overall take on this situation. The recommendation is wait and buy gradually. Here's why. XRP looks like it's at a potential reversal point. We've got 3 key things supporting this. The AI models are consistently showing gains after the short correction, the technical patterns suggest we're forming a bottom, and fundamentals are actually improving with $28.1 million in XRP ETF inflows. So here's the trading strategy. Primary buy zone is $1.24 to $1.28. That's where the AI thinks will bottom out. Secondary buy zone is $1.35 to $1.38, around that 20-day moving average support. Stop loss should be at $1.18, and targets? First target is $1.60. Second target is $1.85. Don't rush in at current levels. Wait for that correction to complete first. And that's it for today's analysis. If this was helpful, please subscribe and hit that like button. See you next time.